So thanks for having me here today for inviting me. So my talk today is about using tools we are being used. I think it's very appropriate that this talk is right after Georgie because both at the same time we are also talking about the same thing. But I will try to talk in a different way because basically as a computer science professor, I also have the different quality of trying to learn philosophy. So this talk is going to talk about philosophy. Why so? Uh, because I believe that in the era when we have AI and Max, all the mathematics and stuff things are actually going towards that, right? But what we want to answer is that human, what exactly is our value in life now, right? And philosophy is actually the best way. Uh, is actually developed to answer what exactly is the value of your life, right? And it helps us to do that. So I have three QR code here for convenience. You can just in case I can't finish the talk. Uh, all these three QR code will give you some information. You find out for yourself what they are, and you might help you to follow through the talk. So I'm not going to try to tell you that you are going to learn 100% of the talk. My philosophy is simple. I would like you to understand 50%. Oh, not 50, somewhere in the middle. Because 0% that means you throw nothing away. For 100%, there's no room for you to explore, right? So what I hope is somewhere in between will be fun. So don't worry, the rest you take use the material, right? So why we talk about truth? So this comes the first philosophy of the day. Confucius said, a learned person will not be a tool. So why is the problem with being a tool? A tool have only one use. Okay, but as a human, you want to be as diverse as possible, to have many things in life, right? And all this being diverse in life is to find value in your life. Okay. So when you are doing learning, there can be many ways to learn. Right? A lot of time, I'll explain later. It's not only just about learning, but it's about what attitude you bring into the learning. And I will explain this. So the whole talk is informal, and I use another philosophy to back this, right? There is this saying about for those older generation, you will see this in our MRs. Okay, if we walk our life in three, okay, we walk our life in three. One, there are 3% that go with you. One is your own reflection. The second is what is factor in your reflection. And the third one is what is worse in your reaction, in your reflection. Right? The better one we will try to follow, and the worst one, not so good one, we will try to correct ourselves. And so the first one part is the mirror. If you look at AI, it's actually created in our own image. Right? All the thinking, all the learning. So for the first time, we create some image that actually represent our thinking, how we reason, etc. And you can observe it. And that actually is very useful because it brings you meta cognition, meaning that you start to look at it and understand how we are thinking. And the moment you look at it and understand how you are thinking, you can start seeing what is good for AI. Right? Systematic mathematical logic. And you try to understand how it's being framed so that you can bring it into your own life, how you run your everyday life, how you plan things, etc. Right? And if at the same time you can look at AI in your image, you can also see what is it that you cannot do. For example, it cannot leap. It cannot jump to something that is no direct mathematical link. You can't jump to something that has never happened before because it's not in the data. And that ability is the human on its own. So I will talk about the leap. And finally, the wave. The wave is more like where you see both the similarity and the non-similarity, right? the strength and the weakness. How do you combine them together? Right? The way is something that combine. You not only combine your strength and weakness, you also combine the communities and how we can look at AI as a community rather than just as individual using private assistant like ChatGPT. So following what Jordi said, the danger of being replaced is actually not AI replacing you, it's you replacing yourself and still not noticing. The more tools you use, the more you rely on it, you do not, you say, so now that everything is inside AI, I do have to learn and I don't have to memorize everything I have. And the moment you do that, you yourself are replacing yourself. Right? Because you stop seeing it as a tool, you see it as your replacement. And that is very important because once you observe this, you can step up from it and say, okay, I'm using this tool. I know myself, I'm using this tool. I'm not going to replace. I have future. What other difference do I bring to the table? So when the machine pick up the work, the risk is that it also narrow the worker. Right? Everything covered by machine, then what do you do? Everything you cover get narrower. And it shouldn't be the case. Right? When you have more tools helping you thinking, what are the things can I do even more than what this machine done? So the mirror, as AI, it shows us operation that we also run, right? Not the output, not looking at what image you generated, etc., but the operation. So for example, if you observe AI doing things for you, it's actually doing a lot of things that you are doing as well. It can be classified, it can be classified, or it can be optimized. Right? What do you mean by that? So this is actually a working external model of your own cognition. If you notice after a while that what AI is doing, actually you do it in an unconscious way. But because now AI become your mirror, you can actually look okay, do it better. Actually, I do this way. Can I do it more systematically? So classify it. When you meet some people, likely or not, you will classify it. Can I talk to this person, etc. Right? So AI did that. It give you a list of new cases based on your own knowledge, you try to classify them. Or classroom. After a while, you group your friends in different groups. Those I know during my JC, those I know during my university, those who have common interests as us. So that's exactly what AI is doing. And of course, optimizing. Right? Our whole life we spend optimizing, just like AI trying to optimize. AI optimize how the model feed the data. AI try to optimize your best group to come to conference today, right? And so AI is not doing something that is different from us. It's mirroring us, and you can make full use of this mirror. So by doing so, we have to then separate the difference between AI using, right, and AI thinking. In AI using, you actually do a faster execution inside the role you already occupied. You make use of something to reply to your emails, you make use of every other things, right? That is AI using. But the moment you understand that what AI is doing is actually a reflection of what you are doing, you can actually step up from the frame, right? And think, move out of the frame of the lower context and make it outside. And so you start thinking of this tool is just a copy of me. How do I frame, how do I decompose context and integrate it with this machine? Okay, so your AI thinking can allow you to jump out from yourself and look at a bigger picture. Right? If the frame itself is a problem, then there is something that can be. So let me give a running example, right? Which I thought is most useful because we are trying to run a conference here, right? So let's say I want to do a QICon Singapore AI conference campaign. And the aim of this is basically get an AI to tell you what talk should you attend. Okay. So this one example will carry the rest of the theory. So the AI using version solution will be this. Here is the schedule. Tell them I like AI and Python. Then recommend talks for me. Right? This, of course, you will get useful answer. What are the interesting talks, etc. Right? But it can be the wrong level of talks, right? Because the frame assumes that conference value imply uh, matching talks to the stated interest. That's the solution one. So your frame, that is your frame. But if you do AI thinking version, you step out from the solution, the answer given to you, instead of just using the AI tool itself, is you ask, step back and ask, what is a conference for? Right? There can be many objectives to a function. It can be learning, you have a network opportunity, it can be a career movement, it can be cross-domain discovery, or it could be just and then we might have a committee members. The committee as a whole come back next year. What have we discussed last year, etc. And how do we move forward? Or even in everyday life, you can actually have certain things that you remember that you have to talk about, right? So the task then change from not recommended talk, but how do you model conference strategy, right? And AI is meant for that in that sense. Except that instead of modeling very small frame, we model much bigger frame. So the idea is this. If this is, of course, our Marina basin, and I like to use it as an example. If you have one knowledge, right, which is let's say the central pillar about running a conference, a PI conference, right? The question is then, how do you AI as the bridge, right, to build on top of this knowledge, right? And then you extend it to run maybe conference for finance, or instead of running a conference, you run other events that have the same reasoning, right? You still care about people where they are scheduled, but there could be other events, right? And so once you form the T shape, you can expand it to a pie or to a tree, and which go deep into other domains, right? So in that sense, you don't become a tool because the moment you expand your horizon and the angle of looking at things, they are very useful for you, right? On the other hand, this different angle of looking at things also have similarity, and you're going to use AI to find this similarity and use that to treat other links. So AI efficiency can inform four things, right? From running Python, which is one conference, to modeling Pythons, right? And then from there, you bridge Pythons to other conference, for example, with finance, other domain areas, so that there could be interaction. And the moment you can interact with different areas, you can interact all areas using the same principle. Right? When you reach stage 3, you actually build a bridge between two areas. And level 4, and the moment you know how to connect two areas, you can use it to connect to much more areas. You run a monolingual conference, right? You know how to run it, right? You have speakers, you have attendees, talks, rooms where you organize rooms, etc. Right? You have all this expertise, but it's one language. Right? It's a conference running a conference language. So we call it monolingual. If you start getting AI to help you run a conference, then you are doing bilingual. And actually, if you want to run a conference, or for running AI thinking will go into three parts, right? I will explain these three parts to you. First part is the entity relation. Who are the actors, right? How are they affecting each other? Second part is the knowledge, right? For each actor, each person, how do I model the knowledge? You might be interested in computer science in general, then you might be go down level to be programming language or other part of computer science. And for the speaker, etc., they also have their own modeling of the knowledge of speaker. And finally, whether you can map that into different part of AI components, or we call it agents now, to actually have a whole overview of the conference. So in this way, PI Conf is not just a schedule, right? Or recommending what you do, but it's actually the knowledge process. So, so in this ER diagram, who know what is the ER diagram? Oh, so these are talented people, so I come to the right place. So ER diagram entity relation models all the actors inside the conference, right? Or inside any domains. And what is a relationship? Right? It's typically used for modeling database, which is one of the important things because AI runs on it. And having an overview of what data set you have, tell you what model you can do, and which part can become prediction, which part can become reason. From there, you convert each of the entities down into taxonomy, for example. Is it Python call? Is the web, which is data AI? You also have a skill graph, which will go down, right? Is it for beginner, intermediate, or advanced? You also have the speaker expertise graph, right? What is the domain and what are the topics they care about, methods. And finally, the attendee goal. So all these become the knowledge graph. You can see the IPR diagram as the conceptual of these authors, and coming down, these are the data instance of the data, right? And finally, you map all this into an architecture, right? In which you have the inputs. After modeling your knowledge graph, you can create models, learning. You can do reasoning with it, right? And you can do planning with it. So this is my generic framework of AI in a box. So in fact, we actually our research and even my company is focusing to give a box in which you have the knowledge graph. You have three parts. You have reasoning, you have learning, and you have planning. Right. And the knowledge graph models and ER accept model your data, what you have, right? And you can actually send them into modeling for them to build models to predict, for example, what is the participant likely to like, right? What is the likely schedules of things to come? And so, for example, if you then have a problem to solve, for example, for data engineers, you have 2 days, you want to start contributing what you want to do, the intent, etc. So using these three parts, you can actually have different things. Once you know what are the attendee likely to get, right? And for each speaker, what attendee will match to which speakers, then you can start having constraints. What are the constraints? You can't have speakers meeting at the same time, for example, right? So all these constraints, of course, you can get AI to learn, but it's easier for you to model them as a constraint instead of the AI is not going to learn constraint fast, right? A dog has 4 legs, they are not going to spend time putting a lot of data of dog, the LLM, so that they know that the dog has 4 legs. And then the planning. Then after that, overall, where do I organize the talk? Where do I organize people to know each other actually? And in this case, the output can be made concrete, right? You have the itineraries, you have the talk explanations, what they are going to talk, and who are the people to meet. So for a person, he or she will see the conference as a overview and not just have a list of talk on the panel, because it's optimized for them. And the fourth output is actually the complete learning graph, right? You get who to meet, and the person he or she might know only certain areas at first, but after that, eventually for him or her, they can actually expand. And you will remember that because the next time you're going to use it to become the data, the knowledge set can tell you that, okay, we can further expand on this and see what other way we run the content. So you cannot be running the same type of content for every use, right? So this output is hidden, it's not given to the user, but for the content itself, it's actually useful. And then from this knowledge, then the next question, the next level then is, now how do I expand it to do a cross-domain conference, right? Where you have a finance, right? So the skill is not trying to have a finance track, right? The skill is if I already know how to run a Python CS conference for, for these certain topics, right? With this certain emphasis, how do I translate or do an analogical translate to merge them together, right? So that knowing one area, right, and thinking of them as AI terms, help you to map it in our area and take the knowledge from that to map into this systematic framework of AI for you to connect them and trigger the loop. Okay. So this is a bridge, right? For every terminology in Python, there's some terminology that is sort of similar, and then they will have certain shared primitive. I'm not saying that they are exactly the same, right? But they are analogical. They are not mathematically equivalent, which is why we as humans is important because we learn how to fuzzy and aga, right? You can try to aga. We can do, but then it become unreliable, which is exactly what is happening now in the hallucination action. But aga is a human primitive that you judge at your own expense, right? Not you don't let LLM decide what is aga. Okay. And the other thing is this shared primitive allow you to, right, be similar, connect, and yet retain your own stack. You don't want uniformity, you want harmony, right? So harmony is different from uniformity. We value our different, but we can connect. And this is what we can do the moment you have AI. So that help you to bring a bridge. So finally, when you do all this in the end, you can actually expand it, right? So the fourth level of AI efficiency is that you have an ecosystem efficiency. It's a connectivity infrastructure, right? Built on knowledge asset. So there is a soft human side to it, and there is a hard mathematical formal side to it. Okay, and they can be merged together to allow many different areas to come. And in that sense, the community will not become a tool. It becomes a very diversified with many possible ways of looking at the same thing without fighting, but also without turning yourself into a tool to be similar to each other. Right? And that is what we need actually for education. Everyone, right, have their own positioning, their own ability, and at the same time, they live in harmony with each other. Right? In Chinese, we call it 君子和而不同. Meaning a learned person live in harmony with people, but they do not try to be as actually assimilated to the same. And this is important when you do AI thinking. So the four level compress, because I'm running short of time, I won't go through them, but they are actually one level slowly going upwards, allowing you to go higher dimensionality as you look at consider more things together. Okay. I saw some taking photos, so I was waiting for the take photo. Okay. Okay. Oh, actually, if you want to take a photo of the QR code, right? The three QR code have everything inside. So now, I will talk about this, right? Next, we look at the neural. Now we try to see the part that is similar to us, logic, organization, etc. What about the part that is not similar, or we believe AI cannot do? At least I believe AI cannot do for the time being. So let's turn it towards our human side. The other side is the leap. A lot of times we do things based on face and leap. For example, when I'm saying all these things to you now, it's based on the face that you understand me. But I'm not in your brain, you're not in my brain, and you're different, come from different background. It's only aga that I manage to convert my things to you. So this ability to leap, right, to agar-agar is actually what is different, make human different from AI. And we need to retain them as much as possible. So now that you know thyself with your mechanism with AI, right? Now you can actually know that AI learn things like having objective function, right? But is human the same that we do everything by objective functions? So we want to show what we are not, right? And if you do an inversion now, right? In two ways, we have an inversion with AI. First, if you read this book, which I can explain to you, we actually think in two ways, fast and slow. System 1 is fast, okay, and system 2 is slow. Fast is using your intuition, right? From young, when you are hungry, you cry, and then you get your food, right? All this is not based on logic. Right? Everything is based on animal instinct or DNA instinct, or in that sense. As you grow, you learn logic, you learn that you have to reason it, you go slow. You use statistics to make decisions rather than hunch, right? And humans go through our life this way. And we hope to, from there, balance the two and achieve something called control periodics. While we are still behaving like, educated, educated or civilized in different ways, right? Okay, civilized better. We still have another side of us that is, follow our instinct, which is actually very good because if you are logical all the time, you go very tired, and you become AI, right? The intuition that AI actually is we are trying to do AI the other way, right? Trying to make it empathetic, entropy, and employ a philosopher to make it follow a certain personality. I'm not sure how that is successful because you are taking something that's originally system 2, mathematics, statistics, and trying to add chaos to it so that it becomes empathetic, right? Have we achieved it? I don't know. But do we want to achieve that? Is it necessary to achieve that? I'm not clear because in the end, if the AI becomes empathetic, it's even harder to control. What if you stay empathetic and try to kill some 2 humans to save 100 humans? Is that correct? And so if you try to take everything, AI will go that direction is wrong, right? And because of this, AI is actually should stay in which the goal is the aim and the process is the cause of the aim. So if you ask AI to optimize certain functions, you train it to optimize the function, it will go through the process. The goal is more important than the process. But for human, right, because we will die, and so the goal remains the same, the important part is the process. Right? If you go such a way that you put your goal more important than the process, then they are no different from AI. And that takes the human side out. So it can tell you a lot of things to stay relevant in the AI era. Keep learning, right? But it's not whether you keep learning that's important. It's when you go in this learning process, your goal is to optimize it to learn something useful so that you earn big money, or you want to do the learning just without anything, but to expand your horizon. Because in life, basically you are alive already, so you basically have to expand anything as possible. Right? The more goal-oriented you are, whatever things you do, the less you are going to enjoy your process, and the less things you are going to learn because our other less broad, right? When you learn something, you not only learn that topic, you can actually diverge from many other routes, go through the process and touch a lot of things that is not important for your goal, right? With AI coming, I think part of us should spend more time exploring rather than being goal-oriented. So in that case, when the optimizer wins too well, AI gives you a lot of problems. So a book that cycles the voids forever. Why? Because the objective function of the AI is to go past as many voids as possible, right? And when you circle the oil, you go past many times. So there's no need to do anything. It doesn't do the things you want to do. Right? And two block, if you want to put two blocks on top of each other, you put the lower part very close to the top part. And so the AI, instead of putting it on top, flip this block, and so that the two lower part is the same side. And so don't laugh at AI because if you reflect that on ourselves, we do a lot of things to fit the KPI, but we know that this is actually not the objective to do a shortcut, right? So if you make your site an optimizer, you will find the flip-flop solution to your own life because you are taking shortcut all the time. And when you take a shortcut one day, you have to come back along the way to go through the path that is that is possible. So humans have three things that we can do: deduction, induction, and adaptation. The first two parts can be based on maths and logic and it's certainty. But adaptation is something that you say, okay, this is outlying. What is the theory about this outlying? Right? This outlying will not be in the data. These rare things that you never see will not be in the data. And that is the part where you start exploring. So in fact, Newton invented the relativity theory, come up with the relativity theory, not because right from the start he detected a proof through induction or deduction. He had the hypothesis first. He observed that it's not consistent, right? Newton and Maxwell things are not consistent, and so he started forming a new theory. Of course, he had a very strong physics training, but then everyone say that he had better intuition, right? After he formed the intuition and the hypothesis, he couldn't prove it, so he get other people who have better mathematics to help him prove, right? The next part, the mathematician in the end say, I don't deserve taking any credit for this theory because only Newton had that creativity to come up with this hypothesis, which might not be correct from starting. So this part of us, we can always be used to jump up and avoid being controlled completely by AI, right? And this might involve exploring other things. So those who buy stock, you might see SpaceX, stock shooting up. Why is it shoot up? Because whenever we say, oh, this is not rocket science, very simple. Then you see this company that do rocket science. Right? And the last time people do rocket science, when US compared to fight with Russian, they come up with all type of invention that is used in our everyday life, including the invention of computers. And that's the part we can go further. So this portion has two names. I know that I know nothing, or use the tool without being controlled by the tool. Right? Because the moment you force yourself into a frame and refuse to move out from a frame of things, you get trapped inside. Okay. And I know that I know nothing means that even I know everything within this frame, there's other things that this frame is not fixed and I can move to other frame. Right. So you need to commit fully to a frame of only provision. Now, without committing to a frame, we can do nothing. Without committing to the frame of the conference, we can't run the conference. Right? But when you commit to it, you know that it's provisional. You fix this in order to get things running, and you can move to different things at any time. So that's why I've already talked about AI using, AI thinking, how to use the different knowledge assets. And finally, this is the part where we do reflexive AI thinking. The part where you look at AI, treat it as a mirror, and ask yourself, what I can do, what I can learn from it, and what I cannot learn from it. That we call metacognition, in which you are constantly analyzing yourself and reflecting on yourself. What is my thinking process? What exactly did I go wrong? And that means you will have to jump off yourself to see yourself. Why is that important? Because the moment you jump up of yourself to see yourself, you move one dimension higher. One dimension higher than AI. And the moment you have one dimension higher than AI, you have more movement, more freedom than AI to do other things. What is culture is good, very good. If you don't have this reflexive thinking, all the things about AI thinking, whether it's AI reasoning, knowledge accept, and architecture mapping, become big. It's a SOP that you observe rather than doing it with the understanding that why you are doing it, right? And your AI thinking again become AI thinking, AI using because all this become tool. The moment you lost context that of this reflexivity. So finally, the way is how do we have combine all these things, right? To have harmony without uniformity. So the theory track so far we went through is the mirror, the Python example, how you use the AI way of reasoning to do, and the leap, something that jump up, right? Among all these, one most important thing that I have missing is language itself as a tool for us to communicate, right? It's very simple. Language itself is actually something that is both a hinder and, of course, a help for learning. Why is it a help? Of course, we communicate with them. But at the same time, the moment the language sticks with you, you become controlled by the language so that your mind cannot expand. And in that sense, people cannot communicate, right? Whether it's AI and finance, whether it's engineer and a user, or whether it's student and professor. So I don't understand why the students so easy also don't understand, right? Because of language barrier. And language can have many areas. You can start from the most common language, mathematical conversion, which or Python, in which that can never be wrong, right? If the moment you remove a bracket, I think it's go wrong. Or you can have language of arts and social science and social science, which are meant to be informal, and also for you to be more creative, right? There could be many different way of interpreting it, and the beauty comes from people having different interpretation. With large language model, what I see people missing is this is a good chance for you to improve language itself, to study how AI as the infrastructure can help you and me to communicate better. Because the more connected we are in language, the more we can express our feeling to each other, the more people I can learn from and talk, the more I experience life. Within 100 years, we see as much more things than what we can do 2,000 years ago. Right? And so the way that involve how do I build collective human potential with a higher inspiration than what we are having now as we. If you see what AI is doing now is actually pulling us apart. Each of us have a ChatGPT, we learn everything from the things we have to talk to each other to learn, right? We have in our own silos, finance have use our own, they don't have to talk to security, etc. And so it's pulling us apart. But what we have been removing is actually how to use AI as the connective infrastructure for people to work together, right? And understand each other and have certain harmony, understand each other language without being assimilated into the same kind of thinking, like a robot. If you look at a problem, for example, of how to do a cross-disciplinary project on finance of city in Connecticut, and you put 5 different people, they all have different language, right? They will somehow together and how something. Each go back to use their own AI and then everything's good enough. But then there's no more friction, there's no more argument of, my point of view is that for this event you need something. And that becomes assimilated, right? Uniformity, right? So the collision that produced inside was moved away from the section level. They don't quarrel anymore, right? And this is the part. But if you use AI to do things, it's sameness, it's not harmony, right? You have a chorus of identical voice, but it is not harmony. It's just unison, right? You want to preserve the difference, and then you want harmony. So in this case, we actually, this part is our research, is how do you build a connective infrastructure to do things, whether we can have a shared goal, right? Shared set of language that we can understand, shared model without, forcing the vocabulary. How do you verify analogy lay that mappings are checked? And how durable, right, that we have the same understanding. So for those who are interested, you can go into deepconnect.sg, right? Here, right? I think you can log in from there. Don't log in so much because we didn't pay a lot of money for it. So you can just so but I think we can try to and let's say so this is a place where if you put a goal in, you have some translational discipline, translation and discipline to uh, to do. So in this case, I asked, can I run a conference with AI and finance? Okay, and so we will break what we want into different tasks and show what are the domain that is involved, right? And it will show different professors who are relevant to the subjects. And you can actually pin the professors. You will give you an analysis of what the professor do, what area to go, etc. And then you can actually compare, for example, terminologies, right? AI, finance, which will start analyzing the two side languages and tell you what are the words that are in between the two areas. For example, right? And different papers, how do you use it? So you can understand what the two side, what are the differences from the two sides. And if you like certain professor, you can actually check to him, not the real him, but some AI that represent the professors, right? So in that sense, you can ask them, are you interested to give a talk in AI and finance? And the professor will tell you what is my area, etc. So in that sense, you start to have two people in communities, and the new frontier is about finding people with different discipline, form a teams, and explore things that haven't been explored before, right? And definitely will not be AI. So in this sense, this display show some viewpoint that I had, that as we move further up, it will not be about individual using AI, but a group of people coming together to use AI together, so that individually we don't get separated by AI, each have our own different views, and yet we can have a control on the AI. When you have hallucination, it's not you between you and the AI. It's a group of people looking at AI, and so the group brain power of the people can connect together with AI as an infrastructure. And that's the direction we should be moving in order to wave things together. Right? And this exploration, of course, can persist because you will remember what are exploration that we went through. So the idea is that optimizer has no horizon to expect, right? There's a goal that AI will go to goal. But as humans, we have expand our objective, go through a nice process, or as a team, we can also do that, right? So the sharing work is scaffolding, and the encounter along differences is what the work perform. Because the more people you can connect to, the broader is your life that you see. And this is important. If you look at what's happening now, there are 60 million companies of one person. It's called one person company, right? There are 60 million of them, right? You can't ignore China. 30 years ago, we had good education. China too big, right? They don't have education in certain parts of their places. So today, actually, even if they are not rich, they still have some tragedy somewhere. And if you have 10 million people per year, and all of them have some chance to receive some education, right? By sheer probability, there will be very smart people than our 25,000 people, no matter how well we train, because the landscape is getting flat. Everyone has access to knowledge, right? Compared to 2,500 years ago, where the rich have books and the rest doesn't. And this is something we have to learn, right? But not this, all these million companies run well. The ones that run well are those 30%, right? Who have connection. Right. It's one man company, but when you run a project, you connect a few companies together so that they become a team to solve a project. And these are 20% and so far. And likewise, it's important for us in Singapore, even as we become more independent, to stay connected. Okay. So there's always a balance between the two, right? You don't want to compete with vendors, you want to compete connected to be exactly like each other. You want diversity and get connected. So we are standing in half the answer. We have skill future on how to learn. The other half is how the learning combined, whether it's AI thinking or whether it's reflexive AI thinking. And the complement is infrastructure that hold the AI connected people together. So not those who use AI, it's not a place of those who use AI versus those who don't. It's those who are ruled by a tool versus those who have softly and then finally connect to them. Okay. So at the end of the day, like I say, I'd like you to have somewhere in the middle, not 0, not 100. These are the 5 things that summarize the talk. The first is how to see the operation you also see. And then start with the drill, my reflection, my factor, and my words. The second is how do you turn knowledge into a shared model? Because to understand that the limit of your language is the limit of your right? The moment you don't have the knowledge graph, etc., the world doesn't model. Third is the lead. How do you question the frame and not only the answer? Right? And that comes to I know that I know nothing. And finally, how do you present difference but build connectivity infrastructure? Chinese is called it's harmony without uniformity. And finally, the most important part is to use things without being used like that. And that is important, right? The moment you have exam, we're supposed to examine whether you learn properly, but you optimize for it and control the learning process, right? And there's many things in life that is. Money is supposed to buy you things that interest you, that make your life more interesting. But then when you let it control you, worry about money all the time, then it controls you. And so everything has to have a balance, just like the 50%. So we have to use rules as rules and whole frame as provenance, and then let the difference change. That's all I have for the talk. Thank you.